bills on the voting list. And Senators Washington and Simon-Air will not be here today. Senator Simon-Air was out of town and his flight has been delayed, and Senator Washington. So we are a group of 9, but that's a quorum. So we're going to start our discussion today with Senate Bill 618 from Senator Watson. Is that okay? Can we start with you? Your bill? Okay. Stacy, why don't you just refresh our memory about what this bill does?
Sure. SB 618, Public Ethics, Members of the General Assembly, State and Local Government Employment Exemption. This bill allows a member, candidate for election to, or member-elect of the General Assembly to receive earned income from an executive branch unit or political subdivision of the state if the compensation is derived from a transaction or relationship that the individual, 1, entered into after having served at least 1 full elected term in the General Assembly, and 2, has objectively satisfied the minimum education, licensure, and experience requirements needed for an exemption. One amendment has been offered. It's in your packet on page 2 from Senator Sidnor. This amendment authorizes the Joint Committee on Legislative Ethics to exempt an individual from the earned income prohibition if the individual has served 1 full term in the General Assembly or the governing body of a political subdivision of the state, and the individual objectively satisfies the minimum education, licensure, and experience requirements of the position, and the individual complies with the provisions of Section 506 of the General Provisions Article, which prohibits the use of the prestige of office for the individual's private gain or that of another to influence, except as part of the official's duties of the official, or as usual and customary constituent services without additional compensation, the award of a state or local contract specific to that person. This amendment also requires the Ethics Committee to issue an opinion to provide guidance to members of the General Assembly on compliance with this act. The effective date of the bill is altered to January 13th, 2027.
Senator Watson, do you want to add anything? This is your piece of legislation.
Mr. Chairman, you know, colleagues, this is an issue that has affected many of us in the General Assembly, and the whole intent was trying to deal with the ambiguity of a person who held a certain position before they got elected and kind of gets grandfathered in, and a person who wants to pursue that same kind of job after they get elected and they are refused through current ethics. We believe that this makes everything a little bit more fair, recognizes that those of us who work in the General Assembly who have been here, you know, 8, 10, 12 years, have expertise at various levels within state and local government. And this being a part-time job that we have, this allows us the opportunity to be able to pursue reasonable income as long as we fulfill all the required ethical standards that this position applies. So that's the bill. We worked very, very hard with Dia Daly. We then had if you recall last week, we brought the Ethics Committee off the floor to discuss and debate, which is how we came up with Sidnor's additional amendment. And we have something we think that works for all of us. So that's all I'd like to say.
We'll start with Senator Gallion, then Senator Harris.
Thank you. And I understand the, in full disclosure, 2 people on this committee serve on the Joint Ethics, Legislative Ethics Committee.
Correct.
So just putting that out there. So we actually were in that pull-off meeting that they had during session on Friday.
By the way, we're well aware because, you know, we had all these calendars. We had to be, I had to special order like 5, 8 bills for 20 minutes. Yes, we know.
That's right. So the crux of, I think, the issue brought forth by Senator Watson, there's a lot of employers nowadays that have an issue with letting someone be gone for 90 days, basically, and to serve in the General Assembly. So it's kind of restricted some of the employment opportunities for a lot of our members. I'd say that's probably fair assessment, right? So the meeting the other day when we got pulled off was at the request of the presiding officers to have that joint committee kind of take a look at this and put their input in. At the beginning of that meeting, a lot of times those meetings go into like, I forget what the term is, off the record session, you know, where the media is not there, where there was a motion in that meeting that passed to have it actually make it a public meeting. So what we did the other day in the Silver Room was a public meeting where the media was allowed in there. And so we were kind of careful with what we said still, but it was actually an open meeting, which, because it's a unique situation where that committee was asked to weigh in on a piece of legislation, we felt like it was important to have a pretty transparent process as we go through this, because this is an important issue. So some of the things that came out of that were the committee wanted to have some more safeguards in place, maybe in the uncodified language. And I just want to kind of go through some of that and make sure that's actually in here, you know, with committee counsel. So one of the things they talked about was if there's a position, there had to be like an open application process. So if you have a local government position, it couldn't just be made for just one person. It had to be something that, you know, different people that would qualify could apply to. Is that in here in the language?
I'll defer to Stacy on this one.
What it says here. Okay, what it says here is that a position for which the individual objectively satisfies the minimum education, licensure, and experience requirements. That's the way it's framed.
So does that mean just one? It could be offered just to one person, or is it offered where anybody could apply to that position, where it's open?
It is silent. It is silent on whether it could be just one person or multiple people.
I kind of issue with that. I think it should be clear that it's something that's broadcast and open for different people to apply to. So that's one point. Also with and I'm actually in a unique position. So I have a little background working in local government while being in the Senate and also running a business at the same time. When I was elected, I served as the agricultural specialist in Harford County government. That was a part-time position, but because I was already in that position, I was allowed to keep doing that when I became a senator. What I found was I had to, once I got down here, I had to keep pretty meticulous timesheets so that and now keep in mind, I was part-time, I wasn't full-time. I had to show that I was actually putting the work in for that county job while also, you know, balancing, you know, out my state obligations. And I had to actually pay somebody extra to help me on the farm while I was trying to work these two government jobs, so to speak. We had also talked in that meeting about having some kind of guardrail in there as far as making sure that there's like a timesheet or some kind of thing, so we know if you're serving in the Senate for those or the House for those 3 months, that they're actually getting the hours required in for that other local government job. Or if the other option is for 3 months a year, you don't get a salary from that job. So is there any of that in here?
So that's not specifically listed, but what is required is that the Ethics Committee is required to issue an opinion to provide guidance to members about how to comply with the requirements of the Act. So that could include, for example, a detailed timesheet or a decision based on the facts and circumstance of each individual member's case, that the individual either not receive a salary during that time or that they instead, again, have a detailed timesheet. It's not specifically listed, but then again, it's also not specifically listed now in the exemption. So it's guidance based from the Ethics Committee, I should say, and the individual who's receiving the exemption.
So I think with this, you know, the Ethics Committee is going to have a lot more of these in front of us as this kind of opens the door a little wider. But another thing, are there any positions that are just off limits altogether with this? So I'll give some examples. could someone that is, and I'm going to do on both sides, so could someone who is, say, a chair or vice chair of the Budget and Tax Committee be serving in a local government where local government is going to be wanting funding for different things? That's one thing. And then could someone that's in the legislature take a job in the governor's office, like say as one of the chiefs of staff or something like that? Is there anything that precludes any of that in this?
The Ethics Committee could also provide guidance on the types of jobs, but this does not say the state. It does not allow state positions. It says, or the governing body of a political subdivision of the state. So it does not include state positions. So the governor's office would be executive branch. That would be a state level position.
So if the Ethics Committee granted it, potentially someone could be like, well, we have examples like DNR. Normally there's a natural progression thing, but what this does different is say if you weren't in that position before you got elected, that you, after, I guess with the amendment, 4 years, then you potentially could. Right. So
I think there's still, you still have to comply with conflict of interest provisions. So, for example, if you served as, say, liaison, a government liaison, that would be incompatible with your service in the General Assembly because you would be interacting with the people who are your colleagues. So, again, the Ethics Committee would provide the guidance on those things, but it does not allow state-level positions.
Okay. And just one concern that I'll bring up is kind of, we didn't really talk about this, I think, in the meeting the other day, but if you're like presiding officer or the chair or a vice chair of a committee, and then could also potentially be working in a local government, that I'm not sure if that's good policy. Now, I realize it has to go through the process with our joint committee, but I have some concerns with folks that are in leadership here also work, it kind of, I think, gives a leg up, but it's just kind of my personal thought on that one. So.
Okay, let's go to Senator Harris, then Senator Hester, just to get the questions out on the table. Senator Harris.
Appreciate that, Mr. Chair. So quick question for you, Stacey. So page 2, line 5, the part that you all were just at, it says that if the individual has served at least one term in the Maryland General Assembly or on the governing body of a political subdivision of a state, a position for which the individual objectively satisfied the minimum education, licensure, and experience requirements. And so in that particular piece, am I reading this correctly, that they can at least serve one full term or be qualified for the position based off their educations and licensure, so they don't have to wait the 4 years?
Yes. So if the individual served at least one, or yes. So those are binary, either or would allow you to qualify for this exemption.
Oh, okay, thanks.
It says if the individual has served at least one full term in the Maryland General Assembly or on the governing body of a political subdivision of the state. So if you had served as on a governing body of a political subdivision of the state, then a position for which the individual objectively satisfies the minimum education licensure. Or, alternatively, if you had just served in the Maryland General Assembly for one term, then yes.
But either way, you have to be qualified.
Yes, you have to qualify. I mean, the two things are, you must objectively satisfy the minimum education, licensure, and experience requirements, and you must comply with the prestige of office provisions.
Okay, let's go to Senator Hester and then over to Senator Brooks.
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank Senator Gallion. I think you did a really good job. We did talk about, I think almost everything that you mentioned was part of our meeting, which was also an open meeting. We had reporters there. It was my understanding that that what we discussed was going to be in this opinion, rather than actually in the amendment. And so I guess I feel confident that legislative ethics can issue an opinion, which will basically address, the myriad of things we just talked about. And so I feel like this amendment from Senator Sidnor is a good reflection of what we had kind of agreed. And I think it's super important that we have those, strong guardrails. It's just a question of, they're going to be in the opinion rather than the bill. But once again, I feel like we did a really good job articulating them, and I have faith that our legislative ethics committee can draft a good opinion.
Okay, Senator Brooks.
Thanks, Chair. Stacy, sometimes we can look to our neighboring states to get some type of input or guidance. Delaware, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia. Are there any restrictions from any of those states?
Yes. So it kind of varies across the country, but for example, like our state, there are states that prevent earning second income from state or local government employment. Others, just state employment. Others don't really have a statute on this issue. And then others are more specific about not allowing it for teaching or secondary education positions, things like that.
Okay, yeah. And I see with Delaware, they allow dual employment, but they prohibit double billing. So I guess while you're working for that local government and you're working for the state, I guess you would have to prorate or reduce your income. Yeah.
Right. So like West Virginia, it says no lucrative state employment. So, I mean, obviously those are open to interpretation, but they don't want you taking two incomes from the purse of the state.
I see. All right. Thanks. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Senator Washington.
Thank you. Again, I appreciate the work of the Ethics Committee on this. I just want to make sure, I just want to clarify, if you are currently, if when you're running for office or a file candidate and you are earning income from an executive unit or a political subdivision, you could continue that employment. Okay.
Get an exemption from the state
You
ethics
still
committee.
need an exemption?
Yes.
Okay. they don't-
That's
okay,
current law.
Right. And so, yeah, no, I'm just looking. So, and that's a may exempt. Would there be situations where the Ethics Committee would, and this is not rhetorical at all, it's just, I'm really trying to understand. Are there situations where the Ethics Committee would not approve it if they've already, if the person currently is employed, say the comptroller's office, for example?
So the understanding is that if the individual comes in and they're in a current position, they could keep it unless it was found to be completely incompatible with what they have here with their responsibilities here. But they would need an exemption to move to, say, another position within government. And that would be the determination about the career progression.
So the being promoted would invoke this consideration from the Ethics Committee?
Yes.
To make sure that the promotion is not using their political office for the promotion?
Correct.
Is that the?
And that's not incompatible with their existing responsibilities.
Okay. And do we know, again, what existing responsibilities would be incompatible?
It's hard to say, but for example, there have been members in the past who've had, for example, a middle school principal that was determined to be incompatible because there's a lot of direct responsibility, duties related to state legislation. You couldn't be a government liaison in an agency and then try to come up to the legislature who was interacting with other members. That would be found to be incompatible. A position that requires Senate confirmation would be incompatible.
I mean, I think the answer is it's a very fact and circumstance intensive
And that is-
analysis. I don't think you can broad brush
Okay.
that.
So, but we're trying here to try to accommodate someone coming in, new into a position or getting promoted. Right. And SIDNOR's is giving some additional situation that they have to have already served a term. I think I'm trying to understand 5, the amendment.
Right, so the amendment is saying that under the current statutory scheme,
Yes.
individuals in this position would generally not be granted an exemption because they would be for a political subdivision of the state, which is currently prohibited. So that is opening that up slightly and saying that if the individual has served a full term in the Maryland General Assembly or the governing body of a political subdivision, and then the other requirements.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, Senator Hester, a member of the Joint Ethics Committee.
I just had a question for council, and I should know this, but when the ethics staff is writing the opinions, right, I think oftentimes we're invited to review them before they
Yes.
get.
The committee votes on those opinions before they are released.
Okay, so if the committee votes on the opinions before they are released, then we would have a chance to look at the opinion and to see if all of these details, which we want to be there, are there, and then either amend or, if necessary, or just vote straight up or down. So once again, I think if they amend, if they issue the opinion, the ethics committee will review it, we'll vote on it, and then it will go forward. I feel confident that the opinion will have the details necessary to allow the ethics committee to monitor this going forward.
Okay, any additional questions? Okay, we have Vice Chair Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this might be for the sponsor of the bill or for Stacy, I'm not sure which. Could you explain why someone would have to serve at least one full term? And that also precludes people who've been appointed, and that's more than 1 in 4, more than 25%. So if they've been appointed and let's say served 3.5 years or something, can you just explain that part of it? And I've got a couple other sort of picky questions.
So 1 for 4 years. Talking with some of my colleagues who helped me draft this, we thought that that was fair to basically show you have skin in the game, you're committed to service here, and think about what it would be in terms of implementation. If you're actually using that, you're actually going into your second term at that point, right? So you've been here a while, you got skin in the game, and technically speaking, after 4 years of service, you've gained a level of expertise that you should then be allowed to go ahead and take advantage of.
Okay, helpful, thank you. And thoughts on someone who's served for 3.5 years or something?
Get their 4th year in, don't they?
Okay, so that would mean, okay. And then, Stacy, could you give an example, please, of a governing body of a political subdivision? It sounds
Mayor,
like county council.
County council, mayor of a town, let's see,
Okay.
Any
all
of those
Has
types of-
served, but is not currently
county
serving, obviously, 'cause
executive,
that's-
any of those types of
Okay.
things.
All right, and then going down to the section 2, the way I read this and the way Senator Gallion talked about it, it sounds like each person, each legislator would come in and ask for specific exemption and specific review. Is that the way you read it?
It would be 2. I mean, the provision in section 2
Yes.
is to have the ethics committee probably sit down, have a discussion, and put out a general advisory opinion, but it would still be fact-based for each individual who went before the committee.
So there'd be an umbrella guidance, and then so it couldn't be playing favorites, and your thing I'm going to vote yes, and your thing I'm going to vote no, or whatever. Everyone's going to be able to see that they fit under the broad umbrella and then can come in for their personal. Okay, and then the last question I have, section 2, number 2. Could you just clarify or give examples? What is including issues that the committee will consider, blah, blah? Can you give examples of what that might include?
Exactly what Senator Gallion was discussing, whether this position was merit-based, whether an individual, the job opening was it posted? Have multiple people applied? Was it only created at a certain time.
So the word issues is not issues the way we would think about them as climate change or union rights or.
They'd be very specific to the employment opportunities.
Okay, the word issues.
Factors versus issues?
Factors, to me, is clearer, or stipulation, or something. I think issues is confusing.
It's a
Senator
decision.
Watson, I don't know if you hear it the way I hear it. Issues. It sounds like they can work on these, bills and not these other bills.
I see your point.
Factors, right?
Factors, yeah.
Factors?
That's fine.
Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we're going to run out of time here. We got 2 other bills on the list. Okay, Senator Washington.
So if you're currently employed by an entity, we abstain from a vote on the floor. You don't vote on a floor, or you don't vote on it if your boss. Well, I guess I'm wondering, where does a requirement that we abstain from a particular vote or set of deliberations, how does that play into this, and how can it help support one being
The
able to?
recusal is for conflicts of interest, and generally there'll be a financial gain recusal rules can be flexible for individuals with government employment. If it makes a substantive administrative change to the agency, that individual may be required to recuse, or set a member's salary, they might be asked to recuse.
I guess does the ethics committee contemplate or determine in advance what an individual member should recuse themselves for, and would that be a part of
think
the approval?
Individuals who file those recusal forms, they would
Right.
probably seek the advice of ethics counsel and have a discussion about what situations or issues that may arise, bills and issues that they should recuse themselves from.
Okay, all righty.
Okay, Senator Watson, with that factor versus issue adjustment, we have the Sidnor Amendment in front of us, the chair of the Joint Ethics Committee. I'm sorry? Okay. Sponsor,
favor.
would you like to move the amendment, the Sidnor Amendment with that one-word change?
Move the amendment.
Okay, is there a second for Senator Washington? Okay, further discussion on just on the amendment from the chair of the Joint Committee on Ethics. All in favor of this amendment, raise your hand. All opposed, that motion carries. We have Senate Bill 618 as amended in front of us now.
I'd like to move the bill as amendment.
Okay, Senator Watson, second from Senator Harris. Okay, all in favor of Senate Bill 618 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed? We have an opposition? Abstain. One abstention from Senator Gallion. Okay, make a note of that. Everybody else is in the affirmative? Okay, we're good.
Killing me, Gal.
You made a note of that? Okay, that bill carries. Let's next go to Senate Bill 983. And Stacey, just describe what the bill does. We don't need a lot of history on all this stuff. Just what's the bill do?
Senate Bill 983, Higher Education Academic Program Approval Objections. This bill allows the Maryland Higher Education Commission or any institution of higher education in the state to file an objection against implementing any proposed new academic program at a public or private nonprofit institution of higher education that will be implemented using existing resources. Under current law, objections are limited to graduate programs to be implemented using existing resources. The objection process is the same as under current law for graduate programs. There's one amendment offered by the sponsor, Senator McCray. This amendment requires the Program Review Advisory Council within MHEC to study and make recommendations on extending the academic program approval objection process to new undergraduate programs proposed by a public or private nonprofit institution of higher education, with consideration of relevant federal and state legal precedents regarding unnecessary program duplication. The Advisory Council must submit a report to the EEE Committee and the Appropriations Committee on or before December 31st, 2026. The This act is effective for 1 year and will terminate on June 30th, 2027.
Got this McCray amendment, which is going to take a look at this issue of, the undergraduate issue, and that was in the bill. Questions for, just on the amendment, the McCray amendment, Senator Hester?
Right, so now with this amendment, it's basically saying that they're going to study it, and so did it take out the references to undergraduate earlier in the bill?
No. The brackets remain. For 1 year, it will allow undergraduate and graduate and study the issue at the same time.
I'm sorry, can you just break that down for me?
It makes no changes to the bill as it is, except for adding the study at the end.
So why? So it doesn't make the changes?
It does make the change. It brackets out graduate in law. And then it also, at the same time, for the duration of the year that this bill is effective, it will also require the Program Review Advisory Council to study the issue of extending this more permanently.
Okay, so it's 1 year. Simultaneously, they're going to be studying this to whether it should go beyond this 1 year period of study.
Anything for undergraduate until after the study is complete?
That's not accurate. They can do it for the year,
For the 1 year,
but it's only for the 1 year.
yeah. Okay, so Senator Hester.
Why would you make the change and then study something and then,
Okay, well,
why not
that's,
study it first and then make the change? That's
well,
what I would like to see.
that's what the amendment does. That's what we have in front of us, the McCray amendment, so. Okay, Senator Washington?
So in support of the amendment and the bill, if you recall, when that there was I think a couple of years ago, when we were looking at this issue, there was what we thought we were passing having to do with the duplication process, and then what came back from the House had a lot of other provisions and things in it. And I think that it's worthwhile to consider, to look at that program broadly. And also, I support the idea, the concept that it should not have excluded undergraduate. Both can be true at the same time. It should not have excluded consideration of undergraduate programming, and there does need to be a look at this whole section in this process. So.
Senator Hester? Let's go on. Sit back to you, and then we'll go to Senator Watson, Senator Harris, Senator Hester.
It just seems like there's all this time spent on studying it, right, at the graduate level. I think that should totally go forward. But for the undergraduate, it seems like a huge change that hasn't been adequately studied. So, I mean, I've just heard from,
I think it's the opposite. I mean, I think I'm going to check. So we're undergraduate prior to this change, prior to this, was it only graduate programs? Didn't it include both undergraduate and graduate programs?
So this was a decision of the program approval work group to focus on graduate programs for the objection process. Previous law allowed, or as practiced by MHEC and told to the program approval work group, was that objections weren't really focused on undergraduate programs, especially non-basic, non-core liberal arts and sciences programs. They focused the objection process and the review process on vocational, technical, and graduate programs. And then these non-basic, non-core liberal arts and sciences undergraduate programs. So it was a much more limited. Following the work of the work group, there were decisions made in that comprehensive package, and one of those decisions was to focus objections on graduate programs.
Not necessarily to exclude. I mean, if we just go back to the purpose, which was the historic divestment and underinvestment, in the programs of our HBCUs, and then the disproportionate negative impact of new programming on the programs that were well supported, I think the impact of that did extend, at least that's my understanding, did extend to the undergraduate as well. So it didn't prohibit it.
Okay, well, let me just say.
So that's why
Stacy's here just for some this is a policy call
Well, right.
about, and so,
Well, then I
we
don't know
have
how
an
to have a
amendment in front of us to making a modification.
Right.
That's in front of us, so I don't want to get, dragged into a policy conversation with committee council.
I would note that
Yeah.
the program approval work group said they made a decision, a holistic decision, and part of that decision was that to foster more collaboration between these was a trade-off. It would be focusing the objection process on graduate while also circulating letters of intent for proposed new programs from all the institutions much earlier in the process, so institutions weren't spending a lot of money and a lot of time investing in these new programs when it could turn out that there was some issues with program duplication. That was the trade-off that they improved the process that MHEC was using for program approval for timeliness, efficiency, consistency, transparency, standardization, all of those issues. It was a comprehensive package. This is asking for a different policy decision.
I have six universities, and I have had universities that are challenging each other. So my interest isn't just superficial, et cetera. So I'm just trying to have a dialogue about it. It's not just to be clear, it's not countering or debating with you. It's trying to put the issues on the table so that we can make the decision, address Senator Hester's question of, is it appropriate to address the existing, to now, this year, continue to consider undergraduate programming because it addresses
Okay, well, that's going to be a decision for the 11 folks here with the vote.
Right, so
Okay.
that's what I'm trying to,
Right.
I guess I don't know how I can help make decisions if I'm not able to
Well,
talk about it. I mean,
You can talk about it. I'm not trying to, I'm just saying that we've got other members who want to weigh in on the policy decision of the amendment, and so I just want to get them engaged as well. You've raised some legitimate issues. Senator Hester raised legitimate issues. Right now, we just have a McCray amendment, very narrowly crafted McCray amendment in front of us. So we either have to take a vote to support that amendment, reject that amendment. Okay, well.
We don't talk about it.
Well, do you want to keep? You want to keep talking?
I'm just going to say that, just for the record, how my attempt to better understand, to bring clarity to this situation, and the interruptions with me with trying to seek clarity so that I can make an informed decision, I feel is very inappropriate. So I will stop at this point, but I'll continue to struggle to see how a committee has a conversation with each other about an amendment if we can't put a context for the amendment. So.
Okay, so in terms of conversation, we're going to go to Senator Watson, who was on the work. Would you want to
Very quickly,
participate in the conversation?
Yes, we had an intense study with MHEC when we dealt with the graduate programs. The undergraduate programs are very broad, and likewise, it's something that should be studied. So I'd like to move the amendment at this time.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table to move this amendment and a second from Senator Hess. Did you have a second? Your light was up on question. Okay. Okay, so we do have a motion on the table to move this particular amendment from Senator McCray, who has joined us in the audience. A second from Senator Harris. Discussion on the McCray amendment. That's all we have in front of us. And we're going to go to Senator Hester to discuss the McCray amendment.
I'm sorry. So the program review process is only for 1 year, correct?
The review of this issue, yes, would be for 1 year.
Okay, so then what happens at the end of the year in the bill? Like, what is the net outcome after we study it for a year? like, and we get this report, then does the committee have to act? Or if we don't act, what happens in the law?
If you don't act, then the entire bill terminates. So in this case, what the bill did is bracket out graduate programs and allow undergraduate programs to be considered. At the end of June 30th, 2027, graduate would come back into the law automatically, and then the legislature would have to decide to act affirmatively to either take graduate back out of the law or to decide another policy action. So it reverts to exactly what the law was before the bill became it.
So it's basically just allowing something different for 1 year while we study it.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've been dealing with like data centers all week.
No, that's okay.
It's like a complete subject change.
And Sarah Watson, I don't want to, I'm just trying to get the conversation that you were talking about going here, and there's some back and forth. Okay, additional conversation about the McCrae Amendment. How about if I characterize it that way? Anybody want to weigh in on the McCrae Amendment? There is a motion and a second, so we're here discussing, having a conversation about the McCrae Amendment, and there's a motion and a second on the McCrae Amendment. Anybody else want to weigh in? Discussion, conversation? Okay, well, with that, let's take a roll call on the McCrae Amendment.
Senator Kagan? Aye. Senator Kagan is an aye. Senator Hester?
Aye.
Senator Hester is an aye. Senator Gallion?
Yes.
Senator Gallion is an aye. Watson?
Yes.
Senator Watson is a yes. Senator Attar? Senator Attar is a yes. Senator Harris? Senator Harris is a yes. Senator Brooks?
Yes.
Senator Brooks is a yes. Senator Carrozza?
Yes.
Senator Carrozza is a yes. Senator Washington?
Careful deliberation and input from colleagues. Yes.
Senator Washington is a yes. Senator Feldman?
Okay, yes, motion carries. Now we have Senate Bill, okay, as amended. Senator Harris, motion, second from Senator Washington. Okay, all in favor of Senate Bill 983 as amended, raise your hand. Okay, all opposed, that motion carries unanimously. Ross, we have time to take up Senate Bill 2626?
Got probably 7-8 minutes before you guys have to head to the floor.
Okay.
And then hits the floor.
Okay, Devin, why don't we take up, just refresh your base memory of what Senate Bill 26 does.
Senate Bill 26, Public Utilities Off-Grid Electricity Providers Exemption. This bill exempts an off-grid electricity provider that begins to generate, transmit, distribute, or sell electricity beginning October 1, 2026 from any provision of the Public Utilities article and any regulation, order, or permit adopted or issued under that article. However, when constructing an electric generating facility, the off-grid electricity provider must comply with the requirements of 7-207, which are the Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity prior to the construction, and also the approval process through persons exempt from the CPCN requirement. Any person that qualifies as an off-grid electricity provider whose electric generating facility subsequently interconnects with the electric system in the state or crosses state lines or becomes located or crosses any federal, state, or municipal roadway may no longer be considered an off-grid electricity provider for the purposes of the bill. There are no amendments.
Okay, let's get some questions on the table. There's no amendments. Senator Hester, your thoughts on Senate Bill 26?
Well, I just wanted to let you guys know that we had, I don't know if you call it a worker, but we had a 1-hour meeting on this with about 17 people, including representatives from MDE, the PSC, and MEA, and the developers, and Senator McKay. I think there was a representative perhaps from I think Andres Lopez, our impartial DLS energy policy expert, was there too. And it was a good conversation. I mean, I actually learned a lot. Basically, this question of data centers and industrial parks, and whether or not they can generate and distribute electricity through a fully off-grid islanded system without Public Service Commission regulation. And so just the arguments that were kind of coming out of that meeting, is that this 5 to 10 year PJM interconnection is a problem, that there's investment in uncertainty, if this is or is not treated as a regulated utility. The utilities are requiring studies which cost something, which I think is personally reasonable, but that was something that came up. And then the whole reason for these, one of the reasons is just, another reason is the backup power that they provide. So that was kind of like what the developers were saying. Then, the people were trying to understand what basically all of the agencies that were there, plus a couple, plus myself. We asked questions about the regulatory gaps and whether this would evade PSC oversight, whether there are appropriate consumer protections and reliability standards, whether selling, power between private entities function like a utility without regulations. If you have a whole bunch of people on a data center campus and one of them's generating off the meter generation and they're selling it to everybody else, and that's outside the PSC purview, that just sounds like a new generator and a new utility, both not within the framework of the state. And so this could encourage widespread private grids within the state, weakening the public electricity system. And then there's this huge conversation about unclear regulatory pathways. So what happens if you have this private off the grid, unregulated with buyers and sellers, and then they want to join the real grid? What does that do? So I was very clear with the agencies on the call, which included MDE, the PSC, and MEA. And I'm like, listen, there might be some issues here that we want to address because personally, I think having one of these at the Luke paper mill, former site in Western Maryland makes a whole lot of sense for economic development. I'm not sure that this bill actually solves all the problems. So I was very clear, this was a week ago, I said, can you guys please offer amendments that help to address this problem? And then, I checked with the bill's sponsor, McKay. He didn't have an amendment. And then I checked with the agencies. I heard something back from MDE 15 minutes before we started voting. So anyways, that is kind of where I am at. I'm not comfortable with this bill as it stands without any amendments. And I do think I provided a good opportunity for people to come talk to me about this. And so that's just where I am. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on the bill. Just to be clear, I really want Senator McKay to be able to do this in his district. I really want Senator Gallion, Aberdeen Proving Ground, to be able to do what they do, but we're just not there yet, in my opinion.
Okay, any questions either for Senator Hester or for Devin on Senate Bill 26, based on what you just heard? Any additional conversations, discussions? Senator Gallion?
So I was kind of surprised to see this on the voting list. I thought that most of this stuff was getting figured out with that big omnibus energy bill. So can you tell us why this is a standalone when pretty much everything else is getting thrown into that one big bill?
Maybe I think maybe Senator Hester addressed it. I think had there been some amendments that address some of the issues that Senator Hester, then it might well have. But as of right now, we just have the bill as introduced, and so that's all I can answer right now. The other bills that have sort of made their way in, we have bill hearings and there was vetting and amendments and all that. This is not in that category. It still can move if we still have 3 weeks left. I know we have crossover and all that. Is there a House cross file on this one? There's a House cross file. So we got 3 weeks.
But that cross file hadn't moved either.
I think it's the same issue. There's been no conversations about some modifications to the bill to address some of the issues Senator Hester just made. So I would say I still 3 weeks left. Crossover is crossover. A lot of bills get moved past crossover, and if there's a will in the two chambers to do it, but that's the best answer I can give you on that.
The one thing that I really, and Senator Hester mentioned, we have the port deposit could be greatly helped by this legislation. Cecil County government's reached out a good bit in support, and we're we're down right now 2 people. I wouldn't want to see us roll this and have it be defeated.
Here, let me just say,
So-
on that front, I think based on, and we could take a few more questions. I'm going to hold this bill. We're not going to roll anything with 2 people short and some outstanding issues, questions, and so that's, I think, my inclination. But before I do the hold, Senator Carrozza, you want to put some other issues out on the table so we know what we're dealing with here?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciated Senator Hester's comments, but she also noted that there sounded like there might be something in the works with amendments, and this is really important to Senator McKay and his district. So, you know, if we can work through this with amendments, again, it is a priority, and I would want to see this bill moved with amendments if that's what it's going to take.
Okay, so we're going to hold this bill, and then we're going to go to the floor, and I want to thank everybody for a good 1 hour of discussion, and we'll see you on the floor.